The suspect ended up in an orchard near Wood Lake, where he left the car and hid amongst the plants. Officers spread out, combing the area in search of him. Meanwhile, a highway patrol officer came looking for him alone, without realizing what she was stepping into.
Can you advise ETA?
Person 676, I'm still out with the vehicle. Please transfer the units continue.
Copy, still out. We have TCSO set up perimeter.
Hearing the officer scream, followed by gunshots, other officers immediately rushed to help, and what followed next was tragic.
I got shots fired coming from the orchard. One just went over our heads.
Shots fired from the orchard, one went over the unit's head.
West 76 Charles, suspects down, we're moving in. Line of fires to the north.
Officers, direction of fire is going to be northbound from the suspect vehicle.
Go there, Kilo.
Check state of mind. Yo, state of mind. Check state of mind. Check state of mind. State of mind. State of mind.
West 76 Charles, one in custody, weapons recovered.
Being cornered by the officers, the gunman finally surrendered. But before that, he had already injured a 20-year veteran CHP officer in the shoulder. Her wound was so bad that she was airlifted to the hospital right away, which eventually saved her life. Investigators identified the attacker as 26-year-old Marvin Joseph Chan, who had a serious criminal history. In 2006, he and two others stabbed a young person during an argument, leading to felony charges of attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon, and a lifetime ban on possessing weapons. But after this incident, officers recovered a pile of weapons and ammunition from his possession, including hallucinogenic mushrooms. He was charged with assault, brandishing a firearm during a crime of violence, and being a felon in possession of ammunition, resulting in a 208-year prison sentence. Over in San Diego, a routine eviction exploded into complete and utter chaos. On March 3, 2022, at 12:38 p.m., officers knocked on the door of 47-year-old Yan Lee in the 400 block of West Beach Street to serve an eviction notice. But what happened was unexpected, to say the least.
Being obsessed with this in every way has a purpose. I got it.
This is all I really need to say. I said, simmer down, simmer down. Take a step back and look around. Realize, realize, realize just what's going down, but what is going down, to what's going down, but just what's going down. State of mind, check, relax before you do something that.
Mr. Lover Lover,
It's a lava lover. She called me Mr. Bombastic. Tell me fantastic. I'm feeling on the top, she says I'm Mr. Roll. Tell me fantastic. She tickle me back, she says I'm Mr. Roll. She called me Mr. Bombastic. Tell me fantastic. But she on the top, she says I'm Mr. Roll. Tell me fantastic. She tickle me back, she says I'm Mr. Roll. She called me Mr. Bombastic. Mr. Lava Lover. Mr. Lava Lover. Since I'm undercover. She called me Mr. Bombastic. Tell me fantastic. I'm feeling on the top, she says I'm Mr. Roll. Tell me fantastic. She tickle on the back, she says I'm Mr. Roll. She called me Mr. Bombastic. Tell me fantastic. I'm feeling on the top, she says I'm Mr. Roll. Tell me fantastic. She tickle on the back, she says I'm Mr. Roll. She called me Mr. Bombastic. Tell me fantastic. But she on the back, she says I'm Mr. Roll. Tell me fantastic. She tickle on the back, she says I'm Mr. Roll. She called me Mr. Bombastic.
Limitless, yes.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? You chuck it on that one, you chuck it on this one, you chuck it on your mother and you chuck it on your father, you chuck it on your brother and you chuck it on your sister, you chuck it on that one and you chuck it on me. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Nobody now give you no break. Police now give you no break. Soldier man I give you no break. Not even your eyes now give you no break. Hey. Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you?
That's interesting.
Tough as a damn boot to be good. You have to be tough as a damn boot to be good. You have to be tough as a damn boot to be good. You have to be tough as a damn boot to be good. You have to be tough. You have to be tough as a damn. You have to be tough. You have to be tough. You have to be tough as a, you have to be tough as a, you have to be tough as a damn, you have to be tough as a, you have to be tough as, you have to be tough as a, you have to be tough as a damn boot to be good. Because you have to stand your ground when you need to stand your ground. And you have to be able to say no when it's time to say no. And you have to mean it. And so then you have to think and plan strategically so that when you're going to say no, you can mean it and it will stick. You know, and that takes a certain amount of integrated malevolence, I would say. And once it's integrated, it's not malevolence, it's strength. It's strength of character. It's the ability to stand your ground. And you have to cultivate that. And you cultivate that at least in part by telling the truth.
Unless
so you take your place in the world as a decent person and as a decent citizen, and you play the hierarchical game properly. And that is to stand up straight with your shoulders back. It's like the world's an onslaught. You've got the tyranny of culture to deal with. You've got the catastrophe of nature. You've got your own damn malevolence and ignorance, right? All coming at you. Plus the incredible, complicated, indeterminate potential of the future. That's all coming at you, and it's all your responsibility, and you can cringe away from it and be afraid of it and be victimized by it and be bitter and cynical about it, and no wonder, because it can be painful. Or you can turn around and you can say, man, bring it on, because there's more to me than there is to the catastrophe. And this is what I discovered from looking at what I looked at. I looked at the darkest things I could look at, really, for 30 years. I was really a lot of fun to be around, I can tell you. I looked at the darkest things that I could think of, right? Not only what happened in Auschwitz and what happened in the Gulag, but personal issues. You know, it's like I wasn't so much interested in the totalitarians as a group. I was interested in the people who undertook the terrible acts that the totalitarians required. You know, the people who, I was just rereading Ordinary Men, and it was a story about a police battalion in Poland that trained ordinary policemen to take naked pregnant women out into the fields and shoot them in the back of the head. It takes a lot of training, by the way, before you can bring yourself to do that. And you aren't the same person by the end of it. It's pretty goddamn horrific. You know, and I was trying to figure out what would it be like to be that person? Because we are that person. And then what would it be like to not be that person, right? To refuse to do that, to not participate in that. You know, and what I discovered by making that totalitarian proclivity personal was that there's more to us than there is to the horror. As nature is bent on our destruction, bad as culture is, tyrannical and bloody back as far as you can look, as malevolent as you are in the darkest part of your heart, and that's plenty malevolent. The possibility that's within you that can well up, the courage and the truth and the ability and the skill and the willingness to set things right, if you are willing to set them right, is more powerful than all of that. And so it's so interesting. It was proof for me of an old saying I read from Carl Jung. It's an alchemical motif, in sterquilinus invenditur, which is what you most want to be found will be found where you least want to look, essentially. And it's so interesting because it means that if you're willing to turn around and to stand up straight and face the darkness like fully, what you discover at the darkest part is the brightest light. And that's something that's so much worth discovering, because there's going to be terrible darkness in your life. And it's going to make you cynical and bitter. And it could easily be that you're just not looking at it enough. Because if you looked at it enough, and you didn't shy away, and you brought everything you had to bear on it, you'd find that there was more to you than there was to the horror. You know, I watched my father-in-law. I'll end with this. And you know, you don't know, because you're not bringing your A game to the table with all that cynicism and bitterness and resentment, willful blindness and avoidance. Maybe you're playing at 60%. It's not good enough, because there's too much of what's bad for 60% to be good enough. It's like you need 90% or 95% or 100%. When about 15, 20 years ago, my mother-in-law developed frontal temporal dementia, which I wouldn't recommend. You know, it's one of those degenerative neurological diseases like Alzheimer's, and those bloody things are like they're in the top echelon of awful. You know, you watch a person deteriorate before your eyes. It's a lengthy death. And it was slow. And her husband, he lived in this little town that I grew up in, about 3,000 people, and he was quite a character, man. Everybody knew him. I bought him a Foghorn Leghorn t-shirt once, because that's kind of what he was like. He was loud and sort of bombastic, but he stood up straight, I can tell you. And he played the fool a little bit, mostly for the amusement of people, but he was no damn fool. And I always admired him and liked him, and the feeling was mutual, thank God, since I married his daughter. And, you know, he drank a lot with his crazy friends up in northern Alberta, and he wasn't at home a lot because he was working a lot, and you know, he was kind of a party animal about town, but a good businessman and a good man. And then his wife got sick, and they moved to another town, and, you know, he took care of her for like 15 years. It was unbelievable as she deteriorated, you know, and she got more desperate to have him around, and her love for him never went away. Even as she lost herself almost completely, she would always light up when he came into the room, you know. And he took care of her right till within weeks of her death. He had to finally put her in an old folks' home because he was no longer strong enough to lift her up from the chair. And we interacted with him a lot, you know, because we were trying to help him figure out how to cope. And we had signs put up in the house, electronic signs that would tell her when he was leaving, so that she would know where he went. And we had recordings in the bathroom so that she knew what to do when she went into the bathroom. And we tried to do everything we could to not make this absolutely bloody, atrocious experience complete hell. And he participated the whole way, you know, and it was really something to see. It was really it left me with a tremendous sense of admiration for him, but not just for him, but for people who can do that, you know. And if there was a new decline, he took it on, and he didn't complain about it, and he tried to do what he could, you know. And like, it was no picnic, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't hell. And then we were all gathered around the deathbed, my wife's mother's deathbed, and the family was there, and they got along pretty well, you know. Her sister's a palliative care nurse, and the other one's a pharmacist, and none of them are particularly afraid of illness and death. You know, they're a pretty tough group. And so, you know, they made sure their mother's lips were wet while she was no longer eating or drinking, and tried to make her comfortable. And they're around the deathbed, and they were kind of getting along, you know. It wasn't family feud at mother's death time, and that was kind of nice. And she died, and that was that. But it wasn't just that, because the fact that the family had coped with it well and nobly and honorably, I would say, brought them together. They were closer afterwards than they were before, and they all had more respect for their father. And then in the old folks' home, he met another woman who had a husband there who had Alzheimer's, and they got to know each other, you know. And he died after a while, and she died after a while, and then a few months later they started going out, and then eventually they had a relationship, and now they live together. And so he gained something. Like, it wasn't that he replaced what he lost, you know what I mean? Because he still has pictures of his wife up in his house, and she was the love of his life, and that's not going away. But, you know, his family respected him more, and everybody pulled together more, and it wasn't hell at the deathbed, it was just tragedy, and the family pulled together more. And that was a good example of how you can extract at least a certain amount of light out of what's dark, even at a personal level. And it's worth asking yourself. It's like, drop what you're doing that's foolish, that you know is foolish, and pick an aim that's worthwhile, you know, to make things better for yourself, like you're worth taking care of, like you're worth something, you know, and to surround yourself with people who believe the same, and who are rejoicing in your accomplishments and unhappy when you fail, right? And you're comparing yourself to your accomplishments of yesterday and not to someone else's today, so that you're not jealous and bitter. And you put your own house in order so that you're not cursing the world when some of its disarray might be your fault. And you're trying to pursue something meaningful, and you're doing your best to tell the truth, and all of that. And then you see what happens. Who the hell are you? You know, you think you're a miracle of some bloody bizarre sort. We've been around for 3.5 billion years. You know, every single one of your relatives propagated successfully. And here you are, against all possible odds, in this world of hell in some sense, and bitterness and tyranny and malevolence. And yet God only knows what's inside you, this capacity for consciousness, the capacity to confront potential and to turn it into something good. That's us, man. That's the Western story. That's the individual as the cornerstone of the state. That's our responsibility, and it really is who we are. You have to be tough as a damn boot to be good.
I got an open mind, like a golden child. You try to go for points, I try to go for style. I do my city pride, I try to keep it wild. Ichiban, wicked one, Okinawa live. I drink Guinnesses and go to dinner with my nemesis. Have a couple laughs while they plot how to finish this. Interested on how to get up on a wizard list. Senseless, you sense I'm the sensei apprentices. I'm the salt up in the cut. Oh, you trying to play but us? Like a DJ turning stuff. Who you trying to fool? We all know that shit's unplugged, yeah.
Susan Collins, charade is over. We don't care that...
Harry fucking Henderson, catch me in the mood. I ain't too cool for wrecking shit. Stoners, I'ma lose. Call that shit a hippie flip. We just getting going. Yeah, this shit's just my style.
A few years, I became pretty close with someone who I view as one of the most important writers, advocates, truth tellers in the world. My friend Gadsad's going to be joining us momentarily.
Our panel will begin with Dr. Gadsad, who is the author of Suicidal Empathy. Dr. Gadsad is an evolutionary psychologist, professor at Concordia University's John Molson School of Business, and best-selling author of The Parasitic Mind and The Sad Truth About Happiness. A fierce defender of reason and free expression, he hosts the Sad Truth podcast and is a prominent cultural and political commentator. His forthcoming book, Suicidal Empathy, Dying to be Kind, examines the dangers of ideology-driven empathy. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Gadsad, the World Symposium, and it's truly an honor and a privilege to have you with us today. It was my first one. My honor. I'm just going to ask you a question. It's my honor to have you here. Dr. Gadsad will present how anti-Zionism captured educational institutions through Western suicidal empathy. Yes.
Hi everyone, thank you all for being here. My remarks, I only have about 15 or so minutes. It won't be strictly about education, but rather about what anti-Zionism is as a most recent manifestation of Jew hatred. And so I'd like to begin with I'm very big on analogies, especially from biology.
So let me compare Jew hatred to the immune system, the human immune system. So the human immune system did not evolve to only kill a specific set of pathogens. Because if it only evolved to only tackle pathogen P1, P2, and P3, once the pathogen mutates, which it's very good at doing, then you would be screwed. Because if there are no degrees of freedom in your immune system, you can't build up a response to a new pathogen. And therefore, the immune system has evolved adaptability as an adaptation, as an evolutionary adaptation. Well, I argue that Jew hatred, in a sinister way, is akin to the immune system in that it ever so evolves into new variants of Jew hatred. And so I'd like to mention here, I put together this list earlier today. So Jews, of course, are the killers of Christ. In Islam, Jews are descendants of pigs and monkeys. They're actually, the Arabic word is najis. Najis means impure. So the Jew is like urine, is like vomit, is like feces. They are impure. So that's from Islamic canons. Of course, we've got the blood libel. Jews make, matzah ball soup and so on with the goy's blood. Protocols of the learned elders of Zion. There's world domination of Jews. That's how we parasitize the world. Jews have no singular loyalty to the host nation. They have dual loyalty. Hitler said that Jews are literally a disease on the body politic of the Aryan nation. They are vermin and parasites. We now have the great replacement theory. Jews are the ones who control all of Western immigration. Some of you may have heard me mention that when I put up a clip on social media showing the names of all of the rapists in Britain, over 250,000 British white girls have been raped over the past 30 plus years all over England by Muslims, typically Pakistani Muslims. The response that I get is, what's your point? That's caused because of Jews. I said, how is it that it's Jews that are to blame for Muhammad gang raping your daughter? And the answer is, who let them in, Jew? So even when 3 Muhammads gang rape your daughter, it's Mordechai who's to blame. Of course, Jews also spread the bubonic plague, right? The Black Death in Europe. Jews spread COVID and also profiteered from the COVID vaccine. So on both ends, we were diabolical. Now this one you may not know, although I have mentioned it recently on several shows. In 2010, there was several attacks by sharks in Sharm el-Sheikh, which is a resort town in the Red Sea in Egypt. And some Egyptian authorities, after a thorough investigation, concluded that the sharks were actually Zionist sharks. But I know it sounds funny, but you could just Google it. And so, because one of the ways by which Israel can attack their neighbors is by damaging them economically, and of course the way you do that in this case is to make it scary for tourists to swim in that resort town, and so even the sharks are Zionist pigs. The Frankfurt School, I don't know if any of you know what the Frankfurt School is. Many of the parasitic ideas that I discuss in one of my earlier books, postmodernism, cultural relativism, and so on, unfortunately some of them were actually promulgated by Jewish professors, and therefore all of the world's ills that we're seeing today are due to the Jews. Communism, we have Karl Marx, a Jew, and so it becomes very, very easy to always connect the dots to the evil, diabolical Jew. Now, anti-Zionism is simply the latest mutated form of a long-standing Jew-hating virus. And so again, you see the analogy with the immune system, how it mutates. Now, last Monday, actually, almost a week ago, I appeared for the 12th time on Joe Rogan's show. I don't know if many of you have had a chance to go and listen to it. When you go on Joe's show, you never really know what you're going to talk about. You could end up talking about, mating behavior of Sasquatch. I mean, literally. It's a very organic, free-flowing conversation. But I had, of course, hoped that we would spend quite a bit of time discussing my latest book, Suicidal Empathy. Can I engage in a tiny bit of gloating?
Hey, we need to talk. When you're driving, we're watching. We see you glance at your phone or touch up your makeup. You always say,
Pay attention.
so why don't you? We appreciate you driving us everywhere, but we get worried sometimes. Our safety depends on you. Depends on you. So think about us in the backseat. Think about us. And drop the distractions. Please, be safe when you're driving. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Paris Farmers Union helps you get growing. Enjoy nut trees, shade trees, fruit trees, including apple, cherry, peach, pear, and plum, plus flowering shrubs and berry bushes. Get your garden started with our Easy Grow greenhouse and move your plants outdoors with peat pots that biodegrade in the soil. Our selection of seeds includes your favorite brands. Nurture that garden with products including Coast of Maine, made with the finest local ingredients at your local Paris Farmers Union.
Number one in Canada across all books. And number 9 globally. And the books that are ahead of it are like How to Train Your Dragon and How to Love Your Caterpillar. So from real books, it's actually number 1. Thank you. But despite the fact that it's number 1 in Canada, apparently my home university is not very distressed at the fact that, dare I say, their most illustrious professor is now moving to the United States. That gives you a sense of how different two entities can view the same stimulus, in this case me. The United States says, we want you here to be on our team. Canada says, get out, Jew. Probably not a good thing. Okay, so then I wanted to talk a bit about suicidal empathy for those of you who may not be familiar with it, and I'll try to link it to some issues relating to anti-Zionism. Empathy is a beautiful virtue to have. As a matter of fact, we are a social species. Therefore, we are expected to have empathy as a social lubricant, right? For you and I to have a meaningful conversation, I need to put myself in your mind, and you need to do the same with me. That's called cognitive empathy or theory of mind. So empathy is a beautiful thing. But like Aristotle explained to us several thousand years ago, all good things in moderation. He called it the golden mean. He specifically spoke about courage and how courage follows the golden mean. If you are a soldier...
So someone was saying, yeah, what the Gad just said speaks volumes. Just that awareness and being aware, like, not to cast stones at any individuals, but that's a collective kind of a mindset that sweeps through different communities or groups, lines of information. I'm not really sure. You can start to see it almost. You gotta kind of zoom in and out. Find a balance in the middle. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they were saying it speaks volumes. So someone said volume. Yeah, is a very cool word. So we're going to do volume for the word of the day. Cool. Cool word of the day. Volume. That is a cool word. Volume. 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 I've never heard anybody say it that way. First time. That's how you thought it was pronounced? Volume. I can see why you would think that. Volume. 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 Comes from the Latin verb volvere, meaning to roll or to wind. Cool. To roll or to wind. That's neat. Fun word of the day. Historically, early written works stored on long rolled up scraps of papyrus or parchment. Oh yeah, kind of like the old scrolls. This is a volume. The Latin term for this scroll was volumen. Volumen? 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 Potato. Volumen. 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 Volumen is a little easier to say. Volumen. Volumen. Kind of softer. Volumen. 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 See, that's a little easier to say. Volumen. Or volumen. 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 It's weird. It's complete. I'm trying to feel how it's changing my mouth and tongue and the sound, but it's easier to say volumen than volumen. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Okay. The Latin term for this scroll was volumen, that which is rolled. Over time, as books shifted from scrolls to bound collections of pages, the word adapted and several related meanings emerged. A book, originally referring to the scroll itself, it transitioned to a single bound book or a physical part of a larger set or series. Physical space. By the 1600s, the concept was applied to the bulk or mass of a physical object. Today, it refers to the amount of three-dimensional space a substance occupies. Loudness. The phrase volume of sound became a natural extension of referring to a large amount or mass of something. It was first notably recorded in its acoustic context in 1784 in a music review. So that's why I say pump up the volume. Say turn the volume down. Some people do say that though, but it is kind of incorrect to say turn the volume down. I can see what you mean there. So yeah, because volume means more. But you can say less volume. This has less volume. So I'm not sure what you're saying. But you just wouldn't say give that one less volume. This one does have less volume. Okay. Stop that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that's actually interesting kind of to think about. You turn the sound down. You turn the sound down and pump up the volume. The volume sounds lower. Okay. I see what you're saying. I actually do understand what you're saying, yes. I'm not going to argue with you about that. Argue. Speaking of that word, another cool word. Let's do volume and argue together. Argue. Middle English from Old French. Big surprise. Argue. Auger. That's the thing that you use to unclog the drain, right? Like a snake. They call it an auger. Argue. A-R-G-U-E. Give reasons or cite evidence in support of an idea, action, or theory, typically with the aim of persuading others to share one's view. It stands to reason, she argued. Persuade someone to do or not to do something by giving reason. I tried to argue him out of it. exchange or express diverging or opposite views, typically in a heated or angry way. I wasn't going to argue with a gun. From Latin, agitare, prattle, frequentative or arguere, make clear, prove, accuse. All right, so volume and argue. All right, we're going to need a third word, yet to be determined. Volume. I really like that. To roll or wind.
And you are incredibly cowardly, hence you don't exhibit any courage, that's not a good thing. If you're a soldier and you exhibit too much reckless courage, then you will probably die very quickly. The optimal point is somewhere in the middle, yes? And that's called the inverted U. Too little, not good, too much, not good, and the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. And so, of course, what I argue in the book is that that exactly applies to empathy as well. If you have no empathy, you're likely a psychopath. But if you have too much empathy, as we see now, so suicidal empathy is comprised of three parts. It hyperactivates, it hyperfires, it is invoked in the wrong situation, and it targets the wrong targets. So Guatemalan illegal immigrants deserve more empathy than American vets. Repeat felons deserve more empathy than their victims. Rapists deserve, especially if they're rapists of color, then we really have to be empathetic. And the reason for that is because that rapist was born into a white supremacist society, so he's already been marginalized, he's already been punished. So for you to be so mean and non-empathetic as to now put him in prison simply is not kind. Try to be kinder, right? And so what I do in the book is I go through many of these examples. But now let's link it to issues related to Israel. And I'd like to hear mention some of the worst anti-Zionists, the most execrable of all anti-Zionists. Those are Jewish anti-Zionists. And I'd like to talk about them. I'd like to talk about them using another one of my viral terms. Apparently I have an uncanny ability to create new terms that then sort of go viral. Wood cricket Jews. Some of you have heard me mention that term, but for those of you who don't know what it refers to, let me explain it. And it actually explains why I use the neuroparasitological framework. So in the animal kingdom, when you study parasitology is the study of parasite-host interactions. So a tapeworm is a parasite, but it parasitizes your intestinal tract. A neuroparasite is a parasite that needs to get ultimately to the host's brain, altering its circuitry to suit its interests. Now a wood cricket, an actual wood cricket, abhors water. It wants nothing to do with water. But when it is parasitized by a hairworm, the hairworm needs the wood cricket to jump into water, merrily commit suicide, hence suicidal empathy, because that would suit the reproductive interest of the hairworm, because it could only complete its reproductive cycle in water. So that hapless wood cricket, once its brain is hijacked by this hairworm, it is simply a vessel for the interests of the hairworm. It no longer has personal agency. Well, wood cricket Jews are exactly a manifestation of that wood cricket. And let me give you a few examples. Let me start with the biggest of degenerate wood crickets. Anybody want to take a guess who I might say? Who? Peter Beinart is a good one. I despise him, but no. Gabor Mate. See, Gabo Amate is so empathetic, he's so enlightened, he's such a philosopher of addiction that, by the way, he's a Holocaust survivor. In that, when he was 6 months old, he was taken and placed in another home to be protected from the Nazis, but 6 months old infants are not cognizant beings. So it really is a stretch to argue that I'm a Holocaust survivor. If he is a Holocaust survivor, then I too am a Holocaust survivor, because in the 1940s, I was swimming in my dad's testicles as a spermatozoa. So not only am I a childhood war refugee of Lebanon, I too am a Holocaust survivor. Now, the way he uses that narrative, which is it's very intelligent, it's duplicitous, it's Machiavellian, but it works. It said, if I am Jewish and I am a Holocaust survivor, and I tell you that the IDF puts the Nazis to shame, because I went through the Holocaust as a 6-month-old infant, so you should listen to me and believe me. So this is what a wood cricket is. Let me give you 2 other Jewish wood crickets. One, well, both of them not very known, but they exemplify the same kind of reflex. Tal Nitzan is a Jewish wood cricket. She was I discussed this example not in suicidal empathy, but in the parasitic mind. She was a doctoral student at Hebrew University and she's Jewish. She wanted to demonstrate that the IDF engages in rampant rape of Palestinian women. So she went out very assiduously trying to collect the data to document that the IDF soldiers are, rampant rapists. Well, she wasn't and she, by the way, she spoke to also Palestinian women, so it's not as though she just went to the IDF and said, hey, tell me, do you rape women? And so after she did all of her research, she wasn't able to identify a single instance of IDF raping Palestinian women. So now an honest purveyor of the truth, someone who is a true scientist, would say, okay, I proposed the hypothesis, the data didn't support it, so be it, sometimes it happens. But she has to be wedded to the fact that Israel is truly a cancer to the world. And she's Jewish, living in Israel, studying at Hebrew University. So you know what she concluded? She said, aha, the fact that the IDF soldiers did not rape even a single woman, Palestinian woman, demonstrates how much they despise the Palestinians, that they weren't even worthy of being raped. Yeah. So now, sorry to get professorial on you for 2 seconds. Karl Popper, the famous philosopher of science, proposed what's called the falsification principle. That anything that is scientific, there needs to be data that could potentially falsify the theory. If there's no way for you to falsify a theory, then it is not within the realm of science. And let me give you a concrete example of that. The concept of destiny is not within the realm of science, because you cannot falsify the concept of destiny. Why? Let's suppose I tell you I'm going to walk outside right now and I'm going to see if a car hits me as I cross the street. Well, if I cross the street and the car doesn't hit me, that was my destiny. If I cross the street and the car hits me, that was my destiny. Therefore, there is no data that would ever invalidate the fact that what is my destiny. Therefore, destiny is unfalsifiable. What Tal Nitzan did is exactly that. If the IDF soldiers raped Palestinian women, that is proof of how evil Israel and its soldiers are. If the IDF did not rape anybody, that demonstrates how evil in their othering of the Palestinian women. So it is a real parasitic idea. I'm not sure what is the way to solve it, but for those of you in the room, I hope none of you are ever angry at me because I maintain a relationship with Joe Rogan and so on. By the way, nothing upsets me more when Jews write to me angrily when I have to walk around all day long being protected for defending Jewish people. And usually the argument goes something like this: why are you still friends with Joe Rogan when he's speaking to all sorts of anti-Zionist freaks? Well, because Joe Rogan is courteous enough to invite me on his show so that I can have a conversation with him that will be...
Take the wheel of a new 2020.
$20 million people. There's a pragmatism here. If I were to disassociate myself from Joe Rogan because he speaks to some imbecile, and I disassociate myself from Elon Musk because he allows neo-Nazi accounts to be on, on X, and so on and so forth, I will end up speaking to very few people, maybe my wife and children, and that's about it. So to all of the astoundingly lobotomized and moronic Jews who send me those hate, perhaps reserve that hate to the people who truly want to kill you, as opposed to the ones who are standing tall to try to protect you and your children. I wasn't planning on finishing on such a dour note, but I'm worried that I might talk too much and then the panelists won't have a chance. So hopefully I can continue some of this discussion with the panelists. Thank you all for coming, and cheers.
Today, anti-Zionism is often treated as fashionable or morally virtuous instead of being recognized for what it really truly is, a modern form of Jew hatred. That is why this declaration matters. If we cannot clearly define the movement, we cannot effectively confront it. The Global Declaration established a line of moral clarity. Anti-Zionism is a Jew hatred. And from that clarity comes action, education, policy, institutional accountability, and coordinated response. We invite individuals, organizations, educators, and leaders to unite and sign the declaration, because confronting anti-Zionism requires clarity, courage, and collective action. We have more than 3,000 individuals signed already globally. More than 50 institutions is joined as well, and growing every day. Please sign the declaration. It's part of changing the culture. And when we change the culture from Jew hatred, and that's away from normalization.
Some in class were recognizing, the hatred towards Joe Rogan, Oprah. Are you starting to make the common denominators with those information lines? Funding, grants. Right, who has the paid slots? Right, so I mean, once you start to understand these things and you make those connections, that's why we say, there's no hate or anger towards any individual at the things happening in the ignorance. Of course, there's a lot of anger as dead mothers whose children are being fucked and tortured by punks who feed child and animal pornography, to the activists and groups and lines we're talking about. It's nothing personal. And we've told those people for many years what's going on, and it's the importance of expressing and bringing to light those facts and helping people understand those things so we can stop a lot of the childish little games being played and teaching smack talkers and dog kickers lessons. Yeah, it's pretty disturbing. And when you have people that are operating those things and profiting from a lot of that stuff are the same ones pushing out prescription drugs, psychedelics, fighting, and promoting all that stuff. Yeah, who cares? It's just an awareness thing. It's not to say do this, don't do that, anyone's bad. We even tell you the sick fuck next door who likes to fuck little kids involved with a lot of these things that we're trying to shed some light on. We don't even expect you to smack them on the wrist. We're just trying to bring awareness as to how it's already happened and they get away with it. They're already using this case all around the world, educating different forces, law enforcement, training. It really helps a lot of people to see how they've gotten away with it, the connection to these networks, how the feeding, the chasing, the marketers, the slugs, I mean, look at the ones heavily connected. Yeah, like Alex Jones, heavily connected to Joe Rogan, as well as the other activists. What happened with 9/11? Let's talk about it. I know all of a sudden, once the truth starts to really be shown, all of a sudden they don't want to talk about it, huh? They never want to talk about the actual facts and concerns. They just want to feed you the fear propaganda. They're going to make you eat maggots! They're eating babies! Child pedo rings! Pedophilia! Politicians! Pedopoly rings! Sandy Hook! Ah! Yeah, wake the fuck up. I mean, it's not that hard, really. And when you see the connections those people have directly to the sick fucks around here, and many that have moved away down to Florida and Texas, back in the 90s, I think California and Australia were more popular destinations, and Canada has always been a favorite, huh? Right, so anyways, we're very aware of these things. That's why we were put on the programs in the year 2000 when we were 18, and how a lot of these marketers and slugs and activists and middle people on these info lines, investigations, Hollywood, psycho fucking Fed lines. Right, so we don't really care. You're all great, wonderful people, okay? Most people are actually working with good intentions. They're just not aware of the facts. And if you even try to address the actual facts and concerns, you see what happens. They've all been telling you they lose their licenses, they get kicked out of the cool club, they don't get sponsors. Can't even say vaccine on YouTube. They gotta go to Rumble. Suicide. Rape. Hey, they're fucking the kids. His name's Michael Scott Garand. My name's Mary. We're at the Governor Hill Mansion. 2012, motherfuckers, and we told them they weren't going to get away with this. And they vaccinated our youngest 2 children behind our backs. Years after we'd already dealt with a lot of harassment from these psychos within the Maine Parent Federation and other state workers fucking with people's information. And I remember 2009, and they were going after the cops to get these dangerous cartel people, and Officer Liberty put my brother's name in the paper. That Timothy Saunier, dangerous cartel people. Gotta get them off the streets. Right, so as you can see, all that noise and just talk, how it opens the door for a lot of sick punks helping the hags and investigators and hazers and taters and marketers and estate people. I mean, you can see it. Look right at this case. That's why they've been using this case all around the